Hi everyone, Shaun Humphries here. Welcome to All Things Retirement. In this video, we're going to talk about a question that for a lot of people as they get really close to retirement, it's one of the most common questions. And the question is, Shaun, should I take my Canada Pension Plan benefits early? Of course, they're asking that question because they know that there's going to be a reduction in their income for every month or every year they take that benefit early. So we're going to take a look at that, look at the numbers, and then I'm going to give you sort of some philosophical thoughts about how to approach this whole area. Now, before we do that, I want to go over our model for retirement income planning. So you really want to take all these factors into account when you begin to build your plan. As we transition into retirement, cultivating a renewed sense of purpose is critical. Often in our work years and raising our families, there's almost a sense of purpose sometimes by default. Not completely, but there's a certain sense of purpose we get from those basic activities. As you transition into retirement, to make that transition successful, it's really important you cultivate renewed purpose. In the last third of your life, what's important to you about life? What do you want to be doing? How do you want to be contributing? Where are you going to get meaning? Health is extremely important. That aspect of retirement should take place years before you retire. It'd be a real shame if you spent decades getting ready for retirement and then you reach it and your health is compromised and you can't really do the things that you want to do. You don't fully enjoy your retirement years. Goals are extremely important. Again, through our careers and raising our families, there's a lot of, again, just goals that come along with those activities. When we get into retirement, we need to become much more intentional around the things that we want to be doing and aspiring to. We'll talk about pensions today. Government benefits are one aspect of pension planning. And of course, your investments play a really important role. Some of you don't have a lot of pension income and you need to really live off your investments. And so understanding how to structure a portfolio, how much return you need to achieve your goals, how much risk you're prepared to take on are really critical points to consider. Tax planning is always important. How do we maximize our after-tax incomes? How do we pay the least amount of tax possible and get our money to work as hard as possible for us? And of course, estate planning at a basic level, we know we need up-to-date wills and powers of attorney, healthcare directives, and for some of us, even passing on legacy to our family, grandchildren, charities is an important consideration. So that's our model, and we're going to talk a little bit today about one aspect of pension planning. So the first thing that we need to ask ourselves is, what are our goals? Because your goals are defined for you to a certain extent how you're going to approach the whole Canada Pension Plan decision. So it needs to be looked at in the context of your philosophy around cash flow, longevity, and what's important to you about your retirement income. So Canada Pension Plan, should you take it early? This is a great chart. This comes from retirehappy.ca, and although the numbers are 2016, they're still very relevant for an example. The only real thing that's changed since 2016 is the benefits are a little bit higher because of cost of living increases on Canada Pension Plan. So we're going to walk you through the numbers, and let's give you a basic start so you can begin reflecting on the implications of taking Canada Pension Plan early. So if you look at Canada Pension Plan, at age 65, I'm on the far right column, is $986. That's at the top right. And for most people, they're not at the maximum benefit level. Unless you've made maximum contributions right from when you started in the workforce, you're not likely at the maximum. Probably there's years also when maybe you weren't in the workforce, whether it's schooling or raising family. But for now, we'll just assume you're at the maximum. Now, if you go across that column, for every year you take it early, you can see the benefits going down. So if we go all the way across to age 60, the benefit goes from $986 to $631. That's a reduction of $355 per month using this particular example. Now let's look at the column and the row that says advanced income. You can see at age 60, if we look at the column, if you took the benefits early, you would be advanced $37,888. And if you took it early, let's say at age 63, you'd be advanced $20,270 as two examples. Now, they take a look in this chart at the break-even point. And the break-even point at age 60 is 107 months or age 80 or age 74. So the basic question you want to ask yourself when you look at these numbers is, when do you want to be ahead of the game? How would you feel if you were ahead of the game in taking Canada Pension Plan early for every month you live up to age 74? For every month you live past age 74, you're now losing ground. In other words, it would have been better off for you to defer taking Canada Pension Plan at age 65. If you look at taking Canada Pension Plan at age 63, you can see that the break-even point at age 77. Now, back in 2009, before a lot of the benefits have been revamped, people looked at the calculation, and back then, the break-even point was age 76. So what a lot of people did is they said, listen, Shaun, really at the end of the day, when do I want to be ahead of the game? You know, from age 60 to 77 or 76, or from, you know, age 77 on. And for many people, philosophically what they were saying to themselves was, listen, I'm going to have the most amount of energy between the ages of, you know, let's say 60 and 76. So I want the money fronted at the front end of my retirement because that's when I really want it. That's when I want to be able to use it. At age 74, now with the changes, a little bit different conversation. 74 really seems young still. And a lot of people look at that and say, I'm going to live a lot more years past age 74. I'm not sure that I want to take it early. So this chart's a really good example of the break-even point. So you can see that, you know, mid-70s, if you take the benefit, you know, between age 61 and 63, it's age 75, 76, 77 would be the break-even points on that particular decision that you'd be making. And you can see here that it's a bit of a philosophical question around longevity, energy, and what you want to do. And so that's why it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of question. It really comes down to what's important to you and how you view retirement. You know, I have some people, when they take a look at their retirement plan, they're very linear in their planning. Just tell me what I could generate as an income all the way between now and life expectancy, adjust that income to inflation, and then I'll budget around that. And other people will go, well, I don't know that that's an appropriate way of approaching it, Shaun. I want to do a lot of stuff between age 60 and 75. So I'd like to spend more down on my capital, maximize my income as much as possible over that time frame. If I have less income after that, I'm okay with that because philosophically, I want that money earlier. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to consider is your philosophical stance to this. But these numbers are helpful to at least tell you what the financial implications are of making this decision around taking it early. Now, the other thing that I've done in this presentation is I've just kind of given you some basic bullet points to consider. So when you look at that chart, what will go through your mind is, first of all, do I want to take the money and run and just use it? Is that appealing to you? Maybe I take the money early and I invest the payment. And in fact, one of the ways that you could make up for this actuarial reduction is doing just that. And so let's say that I'm looking at it and going, well, I'd rather make the break-even point, you know, a little bit more effective, you know, pushing it back to age 76, 77. Well, one of the ways you can compensate for that is take the benefit early at age 60, reinvest that benefit, and then that extra capital you're building up will help to extend the life expectancy of payments to you over time. Now, you may not be getting it from CPP, but you have more money in your portfolio to push out income longer. And a lot of people do that. So they take the CPP, they just reinvest it back to their tax-free savings accounts or other investment vehicles to build up that capital. The other point is take early, spend, and allow personal investments to compound. Okay, so maybe you don't take the money, but what you do is and reinvest it. What you do is you take the money, spend it on cash flow, and take less out of your portfolio. And you let your portfolio compound and grow more effectively over time. And the last point that I'd encourage you to think about is your perspective on longevity and health. So some people will look at this decision, and here's a few scenarios we want to take a look at. One of the reasons that take the money and run can be very appealing, particularly for a professional couple who are basically at close to maximum CPP benefits, is the fact that on the first to die situation in that couple, there really would be no survivor benefit top-up for the most part. So what goes through people's minds is, you know, I've spent years and years building up this benefit, Shaun, but if I die, there's really no residual benefit. Yeah, there's a $2,500 check that my spouse or partner will receive, but there's no survivor benefit. So I spent all these years, let's say 40 years putting into the pension plan, and nothing really comes back out, right? And that's another argument for taking the money and run. Now, in another situation, And and there's lots of couples like this. It's not the majority, but you have couples where maybe one's been in the workforce longer, has made more, they've got a higher Canada pension plan benefit. Their partner's a very low benefit because maybe they stayed home for many years to help raise the family. Now in that situation, if the higher CPP benefit accruer died prematurely, there'd be a much better top-up survivor benefit to the surviving partner. Now in that situation, over 2 life expectancies, there's a very high probability that as a couple, they're going to get more than their fair share of benefits out of CPP. So in that scenario, it may not be quite as beneficial to take Canada Pension Plan early. The take the money and run scenario may not be quite as beneficial. And so the other thing that you want to take into account is if that surviving partner doesn't have a lot of pension income, trying to maximize CPP and getting a higher benefit and accruing higher benefits over time may in fact make sense. So deferring to age 65 could make sense in that situation rather than taking money early because of that survivor benefit top-up that many professional couples may not enjoy because they're already at the maximum levels or close to the maximum levels. Another example of people who may not want to take it early is, let's say you're a self-employed professional. Let's say you don't have a lot of pension sources. Let's say you haven't built up, the amount of financial assets that you'd like, and government benefits are a really important part of your overall retirement plan. Well, again, with longevity and trying to maximize income, it may in fact make sense for you to defer taking CPP, maybe even deferring it past age 65. So let's say you decide that you want to continue to work past age 65, you want to continue to accrue some more financial assets, you're concerned about outliving your capital. In that scenario, maybe the best option is deferring CPP and building up additional pension value for every year that you defer past age 65. So those are just a few points to consider. Retirement income planning at one level can be simple, but at another level can be very complex. When you think about it, there's hundreds of different products and different kinds of investment solutions out there. There's hundreds and hundreds of strategies and ideas. And the challenge for people planning for retirement is to try to, cull through all those product ideas, investment strategies, planning strategies that are most appropriate for, their circumstances. So if you've never considered retirement coaching, consider it. A retirement coach will help to identify what your goals are, to help narrow down what the gaps and opportunities are, and then take all those strategies and ideas and narrow it down to just the few that are relevant to your particular circumstances right now that you begin implementing. A retirement coach will help you to prepare for retirement, to transition successfully into retirement, and to be successfully retired. We provide something called the gap analysis. It's a great review to see whether you're tracking in the right direction, to know in advance if there's some gaps you need to be planning for, and it's a great peace of mind service that we provide people who are beginning to plan for retirement. If you're interested in starting a conversation, reach out to us. Contact information is on the screen or in the show notes for this particular video. So all the best as you plan for your retirement.